Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Joining you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Thank you as always for making this a part of your morning routines. It is very much appreciated. I hope you've had a good start to your weekends already. Of course, Friday is the real start to the weekend. We know that. Yes, it's Saturday morning, but I hope that you managed to get things kicked off in the right way. I hope you've had a good week as well. And time for the weekend. Time for more transfer madness, as Paul says. Sit in the chat box there. Absolutely. Good morning to those joining us live. Jose, Blackshine, Barry. Good morning to Adian. Good morning to John. Good morning to NSW, Akmal, Morgie, Aditya, Stevie. We've got Tony, Trevor, Nav. Good morning. I hope you're doing good and well. Thank you to everybody else as well that I can't unfortunately say good morning to all of you. However, Michael joining us all the way from LA. That's ridiculous. A ridiculous time in the morning. But thank you, everybody, for the continued support. As always, it means a hell of a lot. So really appreciate it. Heads up. Hay fever's awful right now, so lots of coughing, spluttering, and sneezing, and sniffling. So apologies for all of that, but it's crazy. I'm taking your tips, by the way. Thank you everyone that's been sending in their tips. It's it does help somewhat, but it's still not the best. It's fair to say. So do stick with me. There will be, I'm assuming, a TGT sneeze probably coming along at some point today. Anyway, moving into today's stories. Alessia Russo has left Manchester United on a free transfer and is expected to join Arsenal, which is obviously a fantastic piece of business by Arsenal. Arsenal had a record bid of around £500,000 rejected by Manchester United in January for Russo, and have finally got their woman through the doors, which I say finally, it's not been officially announced, but the expectation is indeed that Alessia will be part of that squad for next season. And Arsenal really needed to add the improvement into the forward line with Beth Mead and Viv Miedemar both still recovering from those serious knee injuries. Arsenal could have a front three, attacking options, not necessarily a front three, but attacking options with Russo and Mead and Miedemar, and that is an exciting prospect for Arsenal next season. Sticking with players that are going to be with Arsenal next season and moving to the men's side of things, William Saliba's new contract is said, according to Fabrizio Romano, to have a 1-year option contained within the contract, which is taking it to 2028. Really fantastic news regarding William Saliba's contract. And, there have been suggestions and even criticisms of Edu. If you remember, some people were criticising the club for the 4-year deal that Arsenal had agreed. But it's not 4, it's 5. So I'm hoping those same people will be quickly apologising and saying their sorries, because William Saliba has been renewed with Arsenal, it seems, until 2028, which is fantastic news indeed. Now, Arsenal's negotiations continue with West Ham for Declan Rice to find an agreement over the price tag for the England international. Of course, he was involved in yesterday's 4-0 victory for England over Malta. So was Bukayo Saka. A great goal from Trent Alexander-Arnold in that game. But yes, Rice's involvement for England in the international side of things perhaps is, I don't know if it's slowing things down, because Arsenal's negotiations with West Ham, the personal terms have never said to be an issue. He wants to join Arsenal. That's his preference. It's about whether or not Arsenal can agree that figure with West Ham. But there's an expectation that Arsenal will bid that record figure of over £100 million for Declan Rice. Now, Juventus, according to Damasio, are looking to sign Timothy Castagne. He's never been a target for Arsenal in terms of kind of a priority. He's been a target in terms of kind of on the list of options that they might go for, according to Sasha Tavolieri, who we spoke to in our tactical breakdown show. But Timothy Castagne looks more likely at this stage to be joining Juventus this summer. So all of the Castagne quips that have been going on can be rubbished and put to bed at this stage, with Juventus seemingly the club. Ironically, a club the size of Juve looking to sign Castagne more so than Arsenal. And yet a lot of stick Arsenal are getting for being linked with the Belgian international. Now, Moises Caicedo and the price tag that's been associated with him is said to be what has caused Arsenal's reason not to return this summer for the Ecuadorian international. According to Andy Naylor of The Athletic, Brighton are looking for more than £100 million to sell Moises Caicedo during the summer transfer window. Chelsea, as we know, are very much the side that are pushing to try and get this deal done. And Arsenal have said that they are not interested in spending that level of money on another midfielder, hence why they're going for Declan Rice as their priority, and they're willing to spend upwards of £100 million in that sense, but they are not willing to go in that £100 million realm for Moises Caicedo. And to be honest, I don't blame them. If we were talking about two players at maybe £90 million each, maybe I could get on board with that, but 200 million plus for both players just seems absolutely ludicrous. And to be honest, I haven't got too much criticism of Arsenal pulling out of the race for Caicedo if indeed this is the case, that £100 million is what's going to get the deal done. And because of that, Arsenal are looking at potential alternatives. And one of those alternatives is Romeo Lavia of Southampton. According to a number of outlets, but specifically Jacob Steinberg of The Guardian, Arsenal are considering a bid for Romeo Lavia, who is valued by Southampton at £45 million, so less than half of the expectation around Moises Caicedo during the summer transfer window. If Arsenal can get hold of Romeo Lavia on that type of deal, I think that's a really good option for the club this summer. So let's see if they are successful in a bid for both Declan Rice and Lavia, because I think they'd be two really good midfield additions during this transfer window. On top of that, potentially Kai Havertz, of course, as well. Kai Havertz continuing to be linked very heavily of Arsenal. And yesterday, a bid was rejected. Matt Law reporting that £55 million bid was rejected by Chelsea. Arsenal very serious. I mean, there's no lowballing Chelsea in this sense, because yes, they might want £75 million, but I think we can all be very honest. £55 million bid for Kai Havertz at this stage, very respectable amount of money that they've put forward. And talks are said to be continuing positively despite the first offer being rejected. Arsenal want Havertz. They are determined to try and get Havertz. And it seems that Declan Rice and Kai Havertz are indeed the two players that they are looking to try and sign during this transfer window as priorities. Fingers crossed they can get both of those deals done. Right, let's go to part two then, and your questions right after this. Okay, then. Let's go into the chat. Good to see you, my good friends. Harry Simiu, make sure you're a subscriber of the Chronicles of a Gooner if you're not already. Indeed, everyone is overpriced at this stage. And Arsenal are trying, still to bid what we believe to be as over players' market values. We're having to pay more than what we actually think that Declan Rice is worth. We're probably going to have to pay more than what we think Kai Havertz is worth. We're going to have to pay more than what we think Romeo Lavia is worth. But the most important thing for Arsenal this summer, yes, we may have to overpay, but the most important thing is making sure that we get the players and the quality through the doors that we need. And the players that we're being linked with, I think, have that. I know people have got a lot of thoughts about Kai Havertz, but I've maintained from the start in these talks about Kai Havertz that I personally like this link. And I think there's something exciting about that deal, potentially, if he was to join Arsenal this summer. Arsenal Analyze says, if we get Rice, Havertz and Lavia for under £200 million, and we sign a right-sided defender for sales from sales and replacements for squad depth, such as if Kieran Tierney leaves, we would still need a left-back. Would you be happy to say that it's a success? If Arsenal's summer window was Declan Rice, Romeo Lavia, Kai Havertz, a full-back on the right-hand side or a right-sided centre-half, and a left-back to replace Kieran Tierney, then yes, I think that would be a successful transfer. I said I wanted at least 5 players through the door, 2 midfielders, 2 defenders, 1 forward, and that's exactly what I would get with that window. We don't know the names of the defenders right now, really. There are suggestions that Ivan Fresneda looks to be the priority potentially, but Arsenal's priorities in terms of what they're moving for elsewhere right now, it could be somebody else. Joao Cancelo, we've talked about when Harry jumped on and we did our kind of predictions of the summer. We both agreed that Joao Cancelo deal could happen. It's potential. It's certainly very Arsenal. So, yeah, I would describe a window that included Rice, Lavia, Havertz, and let's say 2 fullbacks, with one of them maybe being Cancelo. A very successful window indeed. By the way, this is going to be a slightly shorter show today. I've got a lot going on this morning, shopping and golf. So I'll be answering questions for another 8 or so minutes. We'll be wrapping up at 20 past. NVR says, Tom, can you explain how he made a decent bid for Havertz but make a joke of an offer for Rice? I can't explain it. I don't have an explanation, and that's fine. I don't know is the answer. I don't know why the bid that we put in for Declan Rice was as confusing as it was. I don't have an answer for you, I'm afraid, on that one. Darren says, Tom, if Chelsea have to sell due to FFP rules, don't Arsenal and Man United have an advantage in forcing Chelsea to let Havertz and Mount go at a cheaper fee than Chelsea are demanding? Yes, and that's why there is confidence, Darren, that Arsenal will be getting Kai Havertz for under that 75 or 70 million pounds that Chelsea are looking to try and sign. I'm hopeful that Arsenal get a deal done around 60 million pounds if that's what they're willing to go to. Yes, I think that's a bit over what I would personally pay, but I'm hopeful if Arsenal want to do the deal that we won't have to go much above 60 million pounds. So hopefully Arsenal can get one of their priority signings done. Tommy says, I won't judge Kai. For a player to get better, he has to be in the right environment, tactics and team, and also with players who suit his style. And the Chelsea players suit transition and counter-attacking balls. I think that Kai Havertz, obviously playing in an Arsenal team, we would hopefully be able to see plenty more than what we've seen from him at Chelsea. Hamilton says, has Man City tabled any bids for Rice? Not as far as I'm aware. Not as far as I'm aware at this moment, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes as well. Let's go to GSM. So 60 million Chelsea bid for Caicedo was rejected 2 weeks ago, according to David Ornstein. Also interesting, I don't know if you saw that tweet by David Ornstein, but yeah, you're right, GSM. He also said that they're looking at potential alternatives like Barella. I don't really know how Barella is an alternative to Caicedo. It's very strange indeed, but they're looking at other players like Gooner and Lavia, which make a lot more sense, but the Barella thing came up again as kind of a defensive midfielder, and I don't really get why his name keeps getting brought up. Gary says, Tom, would you be happy with the midfield of Odegaard, Partey, Jorginho, Rice, Lavia, and Ward-Prowse? I think that's a great midfield. Ward-Prowse was 5th for best interceptions. He's a great midfield option. I personally think that Ward-Prowse is just not of the Arsenal level. I think he lives off of obviously the set piece side of things as well. I think he's the type of player you'd see of Arsenal's level personally, but of the others, I think if you have Partey, Rice, Jorginho as your number 6 options on that left hand side, if you want to use that, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Vieira, potentially Havertz if you want to play him in a hybrid 8 role alongside Odegaard. Of course, Partey can also play with Jorginho as well. You've got that option. Lokonga's not gone anywhere yet either, so who knows if he's going to be here next season. And you got Odegaard, you got Havertz, you got Smith Rowe, you got Vieira that can play in that right-sided kind of hybrid 8-10 role as well. So I think we got lots of depth in the midfield. El Neni I've not even mentioned too as a real depth really far down. Scott says Edu is rubbish at his job. Yeah, that's why he's built a squad that got us into a title race last season. Must be terrible. Ben says, don't you think fans are overreacting about Havertz linked with Man City, Bayern, as well as Real Madrid? So I think we need to understand he is not playing the right position in Chelsea's side. I think that the overreaction from the Havertz side of things is actually mostly linked to the transfer fee that's being associated. I think if we were talking about Havertz around the high 30s, low 40s, there wouldn't be this much of a chaotic mess, around the discussion of Havertz. But 60 million is a lot of money. Is a really, really, really high amount of money. So I think that's what's created quite a storm around things. I also think that, you look at Man City, they're trying to buy a 29-year-old Mateo Kovacic for around 35 million pounds, and because of that, I think there is also an element of, I would have wondered to see what the reaction was if we saw Arsenal moving for Kovacic like Man City are. I wonder what the reaction would have been. I think it would have been a meltdown, and yet the champions, the treble winners, are moving for Kovacic at 29 as well. Let's go to Cam, who says, was Laka playing the right role for us? Probably not. Probably not, Cam. But what I would say is, obviously, he's gone to Liga, and obviously the level of opposition is significantly lower than that of the Premier League, and he's playing in a system which is all encircled around getting the ball to Alexandre Lacazette. So that makes the sense. I think it makes sense in that way anyway. Let's go to Swinging Monk says we need a striker good in the air to give us options. Ironically, if you go and watch Kai Havertz from his time by Leverkusen, he was a threat aerially. Scored plenty of headed goals as well. So I think the verticality that Kai Havertz brings to Arsenal gives us a different option. If we are needing a goal and he's on the bench, for instance, and you're starting to, ping balls into the box, I'd bank on Havertz getting onto an end of a headed chance more so than I would Gabriel Jesus or any of our other forwards, to be honest. So it does give us more verticality as well, which I think is also important. Doksha says, Tom, cue the crickets with Chelsea's ridiculous £60 million bid, lower than what Brighton rejected. We are massive. It's a good point, actually. Arsenal got a hell of a lot of criticism for the way they do business. Apparently Arsenal are slow. Apparently Arsenal are really bad in the market, and yet people want us to spend like Chelsea. Well, Chelsea just put in a bid that was lower than our bid for Caicedo in January, and I feel like no one said boo to a goose about it. Are they not embarrassing? Why have they not got that deal done? Why are Chelsea so slow? Why are Man United so slow in getting the Mason Mount deal done? Maybe some people are overreacting a little bit, just a tad, just a little wee bit, about how slow Arsenal are. Because, yesterday was 2 days after the transfer window had opened. We've got a second bid going in at a world record level for Declan Rice. We've had a bid rejected for Kai Havertz. We've moved for a number of other players. We've put an offer in for Ilkay Gundogan. I find it odd the whole Arsenal are slow, because they're doing a hell of a lot in a really early stage of the window. So I don't really get the slow thing. Esmond says, it's not Edu, people. Why do you compare City, who doesn't care about spending, with our owners? Our owner has money, but it is nothing compared to City's, run by a country, and they are willing to spend it. When we look at what City are able to spend, you also have to consider that they've built themselves towards a self-sufficient kind of level now. Yes, they've spent loads of money, and there's questionable things that have gone on behind the scenes, but they've made a profit last season in terms of player sales compared to who they bought. So it's also very difficult to make that level of judgment as well. Ben says, come on, Tom, what overreactions? I think the overreaction, Ben, is about the speeds. That's what I think the overreaction is. A lot of overreaction about Arsenal being slow. We've seen comments in today's chat book saying that Edu needs to be sacked. That's the overreaction that we're talking about, Ben. Teaser Discuss says, would you be so kind and explain why it's not a good idea to spend 60 to 70 million on a goalkeeper this summer? Thank you. Seems to be a hot discussion point and question mark. I think it's a good idea because Arsenal already have one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And frankly, I think CIES, who are a fantastic valuation footballing website, did a whole kind of in-depth analysis of all the goalkeepers on the planet. I think their conclusion was that Aaron Ramsdale is now the most valuable goalkeeper on the planet. So I hope that gives you the answer that you was looking for. Let's go to Scott says, built a squad, Lokonga, Fabio, Nuno, Nelson, extension. Yeah, it's marvellous. It is marvellous, isn't it? We've got a potentially world-class player in Martin Odegaard that we prioritised and signed. We've managed to get William Saliba, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Magalhaes, Gabriel Martinelli, Aaron Ramsdale, all signed up to brand new contracts when people ruled the possibility of the likes of Saliba ever signing a new deal. Bukayo Saka tore him away from the likes of Man City, etc. Tore William Saliba away from the likes of Real Madrid. Got them all signed up to new contracts. Went to Manchester City, signed Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko, brought them into the squad, and they have helped us to a title race and pushed us back beyond anything, Scott, that I would rather bet that you thought we were going to do last season. Not only that, but we've added significant quality elsewhere in the team, getting Thomas Partey through the door in 2020, Ben White, Aaron Ramsdale through the doors as well, integrating, as I've already mentioned, Saliba into the squad, bringing in Jorginho, Trossard and Kivior in a January window where Arsenal tend to struggle to spend money, and yet they brought in 3 players that really improved and strengthened Arsenal's title bid. And if it was not for that Saliba injury, I would have been very curious, and Tomiyasu, of course, as well. I'd have been very curious to see how Arsenal get on. So whilst it's really easy to sit there and pathetically, if I may add, with respect, talk about Lokonga, Fabio, Nuno, Nelson, like a politician might leave out loads of information. Has it been perfect? No. Name me a club that has perfect in terms of their recruitment, because there are very few, and those that are as close to perfect as possible have a lot more spending power than what Edu has had to deal with. Has Nuno gone well? No. Are we going to make a profit on him? Probably. Has Lokonga gone well? No. Are we going to make a big loss on him? Probably not. Has Fabio Vieira done that well yet? No. Are we still waiting to see what he can do? Yes. Has he had enough minutes? No. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we do. And for me, I just think there is so much kind of political. It comes across a bit like a politician, Scott, to be honest, in terms of that, leaving out loads of context, loads of information. If we're very honest, we have done a brilliant job in getting Arsenal progression from where we were, 11th when Arteta took over, 11th place, 11th to a title race in less than 4 years. That's what we've done. And Edu has been a huge part of that. And I look forward to seeing what we do with the rest of this transfer window. I look forward to seeing where we are at the end of the transfer window. Fingers crossed we get the players through the door that we need. And if we don't, Scott, I'll make you a promise, my friend. I'll be one of the first people here leveling the criticism at the club and at Edu for not doing a good enough job. It's not about sides. It's not about the footballification of managerial positions or sporting directors. It's about being grounded and objective and looking at things at face value. And right now, 3 days into the window, Arsenal are doing a hell of a lot of work to try and get in some quality players through the door so that we're in a better position come the start of this season compared to the start of last season. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in for today's show. It's very much appreciated. I hope you enjoy your Saturdays. I hope you enjoy your weekends. I very much enjoy speaking with you as always. I potentially have time for another show this afternoon, but I'm not sure. It is Father's Day weekend, and also a parent of mine's. I don't want to say it like that. A parent of mine's. It's my mum's birthday. It was 3 days ago, but they were away, so we're celebrating that this weekend as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Lots going on. I'll be back tomorrow morning. You can be sure of that to give you more updates regarding anything that goes on today as well. I'm very excited to see what happens. Nothing can really, I don't think, beat Thursday, but let's wait and see. Always appreciate everyone jumping in on a weekend morning show. It means a lot, shows the commitment. Thank you, guys. I will speak to you soon. Have a fantastic day. And as always, up the Arsenal.